Right, all right, all right. We're live. We're live. We're live.
Here we
You
go.
are not alone.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Go ahead.
Michael,
Yes, sir.
welcome to the party. I just wanted to launch you and shout out and give you a heads up that we're going to be live and we're going to be having a conversation for an hour and making sure that you have an opportunity to allow people to recognize that even if you feel alone, you're not alone. So, thanks for being here.
Um,
Thanks for doing this.
no, thank you so much for having me. When I had this idea 10 days ago, and I reached out to Jay Schiffman and Annie Lieb, they jumped at the opportunity to do a live last Wednesday, and it went really well. I mean, I had three people reach out to me afterwards immediately, wanting to connect and, just wanting to talk. And
Uh-huh.
I realized how powerful it is, right? Especially this time of year and especially this year. Um, I've been through so much this year and my life has changed so much. And as I've gone through these changes, I've made so many mistakes. So, it's that I just learn, right? And I'm always
Yeah.
learning. That I realized, okay, so then me and Annie talked about doing it on Christmas Day and New Year's Day, right? I figured the two
Mhm.
most lonely days. And then I had this idea early last week or middle of last week. Um, oh, actually, it was late last week. Why not do 10 out of 12 days, right? And then find
Yeah.
10 people and fill that in. And then now it's going to, I'm missing 2 days, but it looks like it's going to be 12 out of 12 between now and the first. I feel like right now people need a safe haven. People need a place to go to.
Yeah.
They need a place to find refuge and to find people that can be there with them. This year is so complicated and difficult, right? So first and foremost, I want to thank you for jumpstarting this, right? And obviously thank Annie Lieb and Jay Schiffman for jumping on it last week, and Annie for committing to 2 days.
Yeah.
And then I definitely want to thank Gabriel Leal because he's helping me tremendously with this.
He's the
Uh,
one that shot me a message out first and foremost and said, "Hey, I'm doing this," and I thought, well, yeah, I'm down for that totally. And if you need another spot, let's jump on again. I'm not opposed to doing it more than once.
yeah, I mean, there might be. As of right now, I just have tomorrow and the 27th not filled.
Okay.
So other than that, I'm filled up between now and the first. So Kelly Blackman agreed. Hallie Avalio, Charisse Fontes, Gabriel Leal's going to do a night with me on New Year's Eve, which should be exciting. Terry Nichols is going to do a day with me.
Fantastic.
Marcello's jumping on a day with me. I feel like Sama Dion or Dillon. I'm horrible with names, so you just got to bear with me on that one. And then, I had a grievous and gracious error that I made, and Sherry St. Marie committed to do tomorrow. And rather than confronting a past that I didn't want to do, I had Gabe reach out to her. She committed to it. She posted about it. And even we spoke yesterday, and I still didn't say anything to her. And I couldn't sleep last night, and I was nauseous this morning, and I had to own something. I made a mistake in confidence of conversations, not in public forum. I made disparaging remarks against her, and I can't do that to people and live to my true values, right? My core values.
Hmm.
So I had to own it, and I had to own that mistake. From that point forward, she decided to cancel because she didn't feel comfortable being live with me, and I do not blame her, right? I had many opportunities to say something to her, and I didn't. We don't know each other, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for her because she jumped at the opportunity to participate for the cause. So I appreciate her and being willing. And again, I sincerely apologize for the mistake I made. I'm very gracious and I have the utmost amount of gratitude for everyone that wanted to participate in this. This is a crazy time of year for people to take an hour out of their lives and willing to be there for others, right? So it's cathartic to be on this, but at the same time, it, this is needed for people that don't even have this.
Yeah.
Um, you know, my journey has been extremely interesting. I mean, we talked about it last time a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Um, I've gone through this enormous transformational journey over this past 6 months basically. And I've changed everything, right? Like physically, mentally, spiritually. I've done trauma therapy with Sherry Lewick, did Brene Brown did the Brene Brown books, went through all those, blame, shames, and guilts.
Yep.
I've been doing, exercising, losing weight, eating better. Um, it's this journey is never ending. And then spiritually, I've been waking up again and getting deeper with myself and really connecting myself again. And it's through this journey that for the first time in my life, I can say I love myself. And for the first time in my life, I can say I don't feel alone anymore. I spent so much of my life feeling alone, even in a room of crowded people, right? Like I
Yep.
just couldn't get out of my own way. Um, didn't matter how many people were there. Didn't matter if it was family, friends. I just always felt alone. And I was always looking for the next thing to divert my attention and fill a void that I couldn't, right? Like I was a drug addict for years. I started drinking at 9, doing hardcore drugs by 12. And I couldn't fill that void no matter how hard I tried. All the times that I had near death experiences, all the times that I OD'd, all the times that I've been through so much. And I'm here for a reason, right? I'm here to share my journey so that others can find a way to share their journey. I'm here to share my truth, whatever that is, my mistakes, my lessons that I've learned along the way.
Well, I know that there's so many people out there that even, like you said, even in a crowded room, they feel alone because of what their experience has been, what their emotional attachments have been. There's so many things that we can go through in life that we have a way of holding on to these stories, and until you actually start to discover how to recreate the story in your own mind and how you actually manage through that, and you kind of have to maneuver through this maze of all the burden and the bullshit that we go through in order to achieve what we do in life. And it's, we've all had our experiences that we can look back and say, man, that's probably wasn't a smart idea. That wasn't the right thing to do. However, when we start beating ourselves up about the past and we start to burden ourselves with the guilt and the shame and the all of the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, and then it's it's not about us as much as it is about the people we impacted. That's what we really should be thinking about is how can I give back to society as a result of having a negative impact on people in my past. It's almost like pay it forward. And for myself, having had lots of interesting life experiences and having had to change as a result of my circumstances and my journey, it's like, okay, well, what can I do to improve my future? What can I improve the person I was from yesterday? It only takes one step at a time in order to accomplish that goal. Is that kind of how you're feeling about this year for yourself?
I don't think I had the opportunity to take it one step at a time. As much as I want to simplify it to that, I was
Mhm.
thrown into a situation to where I had to change, right? And I had to evolve on the spot. Um, it was steps involved, and it was one step at a time, but it felt like it was light years at a time, right? Because I went through it at such a fast pace, and I was so motivated to be different because I just didn't want to be miserable anymore. I
Well,
didn't want to
I think I would
feel.
argue though, Mike, and in all fairness, I think I would argue that you made a decision to change.
Yes.
You know, there's a point in your time where you have to take responsibility for your actions. You have to take responsibility for who you are and who you want to become, because it's either, in some cases it's life or death.
Yeah.
And when you
Yeah.
make a choice and take responsibility, your outcome it is going to be different.
Yes. Yeah, it's about owning it, right? Owning the good and the bad. You have to embrace your flaws. You have to own your flaws. You have to look at them with a realistic, objective, point of view. It's very hard to look at ourselves in the mirror and not like what we see, right? And
Yeah.
it's even harder to make, like you said, make that choice, that
Yeah.
decision to change. And it came to the point where I was letting myself down year over year, time over time, and I really just got tired of letting myself down. I can say that I didn't want to let my kids down, but I've let my kids down plenty.
Yeah.
I can say I didn't want to let anybody else in my life down, but I let people down plenty, right? And a lot of those people I'll never be able to make it up to. It's like you said, right? Like even when I did my 4-step 14 years ago, 14 and a half, I guess.
Mhm.
You know, I didn't do the emotional work like we discussed last time I was on until this year.
Right.
But I could never make amends to most of those people. Most of those people probably would either knock me out, shot me right on sight, or you know, just not, you know, just disregarded it, right? And I
Right.
made amends everywhere I could. But it's about, like you said, paying it forward. You've got to put your story out there to inspire others, to show others a way of doing it, to be able to show others how they can make those leaps for themselves. Um, and it's not easy, right? Um, it's the hard choices that you have to make the right decision.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I was willing to let a wrong decision settle for it, and then this morning I had to turn it into a right decision, right? So it's just one of those things where you've got to get to a point where you can't accept anything less from yourself.
Well, and there's a big gap, and it's like Laura said, there are three frogs on a log. Two decided to jump off, and how many frogs were left? And she has three. Deciding and doing are two different, completely different things. And until you decide to make the change, until you commit to being responsible for those changes and those things, you know, everybody can make a leap of faith, but until you take a, a forced, take action in your future, nothing's going to change. I mean, you roll over and go back dreaming if that's where you want to go, but don't blame others around you for your circumstance if you're not going to do anything to help yourself, right?
And that's true, right? And even with Gabe, right? Me and Gabe had a falling out earlier this year, and I had to own it with him. You know, I had to own my side of it, right? You
Uh-huh.
know, it's difficult at times, right? Like, you know, it's challenging to, we're not perfect, right? We're all imperfectly ourselves. We're our perfect, imperfect selves.
We're
And we're
perfectly
perfect.
imperfect.
Yeah, we're perfectly imperfect, right? And I get those twisted up all the time, but you know, I mean, we make mistakes. The difference is, do we bury them, or do we accept them and move forward?
Yeah.
And grow forward, right? I
Yeah.
spent so many years falling forward and making half-assed attempts, right? Like it was, oh, well, if I build this company, or if I do this at work, or if I make this much money, I can ignore the rest of the stuff, right? And the reality is none of that matters, because if you're not living to your true self, it's all going to fall apart at some point. You're gonna fall by the wayside. You're gonna crumble underneath it at some point. And I've done that many times. I've built amazing things in this world that have fallen apart at the last minute because I wasn't there. I wasn't ready. I wasn't fully present in my own life. And I just was an outsider looking at it and doing it.
Well, there have been times in my life where I thought I could solve this problem by just working a little harder.
Yeah.
And it's not, that's just a symptom of a different problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I went from being an alcoholic and drug addict to being a workaholic to a porn addict for a little bit of time to all these different things, right? And
Yeah.
and I just kept shifting it. I just kept moving it around, and until I dealt with the emotional side. And being a man, people say it's, you don't do it, you bury it, right? That's how I was raised. You don't tell, you keep your secrets, you have private things, you have this, you don't tell anybody anything, right?
Yeah.
And now I decided that I'm just blowing the doors off that for myself. I go on my link, I go on my YouTube, and I just cry sometimes, right? Like, it is what it is. I am where I am at that moment, right? This is a journey. This is a struggle. This is real life.
It
Hey,
is
Annie.
real life. And he says, "Hey Russ, hey Mike, love seeing you both seeing both your faces. Mike, love what you're doing. No more reason to feel alone. Leaders ship by examples.
Yeah.
Leadership by example." I had to read
Yeah.
that again.
No, well, hashtags are difficult, right? Because they're all tied in together. So, and Annie's gonna be, I'm gonna be with Annie on Friday and the next Friday.
I love her. She's awesome.
Thank you.
Marissa says you do enough. You are enough, Michael. So,
And I believe that today. And thank you.
yeah, I feel a lot of people have gone through this journey throughout the year. We have to slow down and really look at what matters, what mattered. And I have to, I've had to reflect on this many times in my life. And I think there's two pieces of this. And I want to get your feedback on this because it's a great conversation. Is number one, we have to change how we are with ourselves, and who we become is not necessarily completely available to us in the front of the journey, in the beginning, because we kind of have to discover a little bit to learn about who we are and how we react and respond to things. And because of the baggage and the burden that we've placed on ourselves in our history, until you let go of that and you start peeling back the onion and becoming who you are, then you just start discovering new things about how you feel about certain circumstances, certain places in the world, certain ways of thinking about the world and thinking about other people in the world. And so for yourself, when you say, you're becoming your authentic yourself, your authentic you, and you're okay and you love yourself, I'm sure that you're in the middle of the journey. It's not necessarily the end of the journey. It's not like one thing happens and all of a sudden you're okay, I'm done.
No.
So how do you explain that, or how do you categorize that or catalog that in your own world?
For me, this is a lifelong journey, right? It's ever evolving, ever changing as we grow forward, right? And we evolve forward. Because if we become stagnant, then we lose it all, right? This is a journey that never ends, but it's a very rewarding journey. And it's like you said, in the beginning, I thought I was one way and I wasn't, right? And then there were things that I thought I could be and I wasn't. And then there were things that, I wanted to be and I was nowhere near them, right? So when I looked at my core values and I wrote it out in June or July, I wasn't even close to where they are today. And I wasn't living or acting as my words were stating, right? And that was a big wake up call, right? Like when you're willing to do that deep, dark dive and evaluate your actions versus words,
Yeah.
it's painful. It rips you to shreds because you've got to be willing to go through that fire. You've got to be willing to go through the darkness. You've got to be willing to go through that pain to start getting to the other side. And every time I go through another layer, there's another layer, right? And it's okay because now I have the tools to be able to handle it, right? And I think that was a big part of it, right? The Brene Brown stuff was great, and I'm a complete oversharer, and I know that. So I'm perfectly classified by Brene Brown. But it's not a negative because it resonates with who it does, and it doesn't with it doesn't. And I'm okay with that today. But when it came down to it, learning how to deal and release my trauma, and then learning how to handle triggers and having a toolbox of how not to get engaged in my triggers and have the reactions or negative actions attached to them, right? If I would have came clean and that whole circumstance happened this morning 5 months ago, earlier in this journey, I would have tried canceling the whole thing. I would have been so upset. I would have been ashamed. I would have felt shamed. I would have felt blamed. I would have felt guilty. And it's not that I don't feel bad for what I did. And I know I handled it the wrong way, but I owned it today. And I know that my intentions are pure for doing it. So I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And this is needed right now. This isn't about me. This isn't about me and the host, me and you. This is about the people that need to hear this from somebody, that need somebody on the screen to say, I've been where you're at. I know where you're at. I feel it. I get it. I understand it. And these are steps that I took to get out of it, right?
Yeah.
And you can do it. You just got to be willing. And then once you're willing, and then you, like you said, you got to commit to the action, because keeping that daily routine, keeping that action up is the most important part of anything. And as boring as it sounds to have this daily routine that you do every day, It is so self-fulfilling and so rewarding to know that every morning I give myself 2 hours to start my day. I give myself an hour to, well, half hour sometimes, depending on what the kids are doing, right? They're
Yeah.
quiet because they're quiet because I just gave them 11 cookies. So they're in the back. But it's like I gap it out so I have time during the day to stay centered, to stay focused, to try and be my best self, right? Or my most authentic self, because I'm always my best self. Even on bad days, I'm still my best self.
Yeah.
You can't be any better than your best self at any point in time in your life. The worst moments are still you did the best you could at those moments.
Yeah.
We need to look at attainable goals and give ourselves credit. I never gave myself credit. I was never proud of myself, you know, and I can say today, I'm proud of how I reacted and how I'm acting 95% of the time. And
Yeah.
I'm still working on, that last 5%, which depending on how close you are to me is depending on how often you see the 5%. So,
The
you know,
smaller it gets, the harder it is.
yes, it is. It is because it's the deeper stuff, right? It's the stuff
Yeah.
that's more deeply tied emotionally. I mean,
Yeah.
this goes so far back as far as emotional ties that it's really scary at times. You don't know how to handle it. Even when you do the work, even when you're doing the work, it's easy to fall into a slump for a day and find that darkness or find that down moment and fall into these holes. And for me, it's like a quicksand feeling. It feels like I'm getting
Mhm.
swallowed up by quicksand, right?
Yeah.
And what I've realized is over the past 6 months, I used to have days or weeks like this, right? Because I was in a massive depression for 3 months between March and, well, middle of May. Um, so it was every day. And then as I started doing this work and started transitioning and changing and evolving, it went from being days and weeks to being days and hours. And now it's hours and minutes. Now I still have a day here or there that's bad.
Hmm.
But you know what? If I know it's going to be over and I know that I can do the work to get out of it and still stick to my routine, I know that even if I have a bad day tomorrow or a bad day, if I'm having a bad day today, I know I wake up tomorrow, do my same routine at 4 a.m. I'm going to come back out of it because it's what
Well,
got
and
me
here's the
here.
thing, Mike. Here's the thing, is that you know, and this is why I think about life as an instrument. It's practicing, and we're just practicing life, just like any other instrument. And we're never going to get to perfection. It's like we said, perfectly imperfect.
Yes.
So we continue to practice. And when we're practicing, okay, I'm going to play a bad note one day. I'm going to play a bad note one week. I'm going to screw it up. I'm going to break a string, whatever it happens to be. But the analogy is that you have an opportunity to wake up tomorrow, start it over again, and continue to practice being better than yesterday. And when we do that, and we can share that and identify that we're taking action to improve ourselves, to be a better person around other people, and that you're not alone. We're all going through this process together. And it's not a matter of if we can do it, it's a matter of how we are going to do it. And so, a lot of people don't give themselves enough credit, and they carry that baggage from generations potentially,
Hmm.
and the story that they're telling themselves, and being the person that wants to be liked by everyone, which is one of my challenges, is like I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want to piss it. I don't want to polarize anything. I want to make sure everybody's okay. And it's not necessarily better than anything else. I mean, it's still a weakness in some circumstances, and it causes me a little bit of grief now and then. So, life is imperfect. It's a messy place, and we could just have to be continuing to do what we can to work together, to build community, have these conversations, let people know that we're not alone. I feel, you know, there's days where it's really not very happy. I'm a pretty positive person, and it's not always rainbows and unicorns. So you're not
No,
alone,
there
brother.
no, there's moments, right? Like it's what it really comes down to. I mean, Annie really helped me learn this, right? self-compassion, right? And for self-forgiveness, it's really difficult for me to absorb that one, right? Because I was always my harshest critic. And I'm
Mhm.
trying not to be today, right? And
Yeah.
that is a concerted effort. That takes a lot of energy from me, is to forgive myself and to allow myself to feel and be. I didn't feel my emotions almost my whole life. I numbed them out in one way or another, right? And even being sober, I numbed it out through other whatever diversions. Um, it's when we start accepting ourselves, a lot of those things start falling by the wayside.
Yeah.
I was a tremendous people pleaser to the point where I would burn myself into the ground. Like all I wanted to do was make everyone else happy, because if I made everyone happy, nobody would notice how unhappy I was,
Yeah.
right? Or how much pain I was in.
Well,
Um,
like Laura says, that's the mental fitness, the how, the pleaser. It doesn't serve. I'm right here. I give so much, I have nothing left to give, and then I get pissed off because I don't get anything back. Yeah, it's almost like self-sabotage. It's and then the other side of the equation, and you mentioned it, you burn so many bridges that you can't you have nowhere to go. And it's like, okay, well, what is it that what's in the balance? Where do we go? What do we do? How do we fix you know the pendulum? How do we stop the pendulum from swinging back and forth from one extreme to the next? And just be,
I'm
just be
still I'm
ourselves.
st- I'm still not good at being, right. I'm still not just okay with being.
Yeah,
Now it's to the point where I'm okay sitting in a room by myself for hours, and I'm okay. I don't
right.
feel alone, right? Certain aspects still just being. And that's a big challenge for me, right? It's being patient with certain aspects of my life, and waiting for things to play out, and waiting for things to fall in place however they will, right? Because we can only control so much.
Yeah,
um we allowing was a huge one for me. Learning to allow, learning to accept the fact that I'm going to have bad days. I'm gonna, but the only way I can get through it is self-forgiveness. The people pleasing, the over giving, the over helping. For me, I'm still learning because
yeah,
I'm not great at that. There are certain people in my life that are so close to me that I would literally give everything I have so that they don't feel an ounce of pain. I would take their pain so that they don't have to feel it, and self-sacrifice all the time. Um,
yeah.
but I also realized today that I can't do that anymore, because the minute I start doing,
Lisa says
yeah,
patient
yeah,
is a big one. Yeah,
it's
patience is
huge.
a big one. Yeah.
It's
And we have
huge.
we have to have patience with ourselves too, you know.
That's huge.
And it's like, okay, when we get stressed out and everything else is like, oh, I coulda, shoulda, woulda. It's just like, stop. Have a little patience, have a little forgiveness for yourself.
Well, the hard part of that is, right, we all look at these things and we think it's an outside job, right? We look at, we say, why does this person expect this from me?
Yeah,
Why does this person, lie to me? Why does this person? And then if you really do that deep dive, you're lying to yourself. You have
yeah.
your own expectations set upon yourself. And the minute you do, you're setting expectations on others. You judge yourself, which is why you judge others, right? And you have these moments where at some point you have a realization that, granted, I listened to a lot of Gary Vee, so he hammered it in my head pretty good, even when I wasn't ready to hear it. Dave Meltzer hammered it in my head pretty good when I wasn't ready to hear it.
Yeah,
Ed Milet and a few others, right?
yeah.
And I spent times where I was really depressed, but listening to them nonstop. And it still wasn't a magic pill, right, to get out of the funk. But I remembered it, and when I started getting out of the funk, I was able to take it, absorb the information the way that I could, and then turn it back into, ways that I share it, right? You know,
Well,
every,
and like you said, Mike, you have to allow that to come into your life to understand how you feel about it too. You know, allowing this to take place and just kind of go through and understand, what does it feel like? How does it feel? How do I like it? What is it that I don't like about this feeling? until you understand how feelings impact you, because some say that it's neither good nor bad. It's just a feeling. It's just an emotion. And what we attach to it is the challenge. It's not the feeling
Hmm.
itself. It's how we understand the feeling and what we have, allow ourselves to feel around that feeling. Um, and that's what allows us to grow. I mean, if we didn't have empathy, that would be a cruel world.
Well, and I was the guy in rehab, right, 14 and a half years ago, that
Mhm.
sat there. And I mean, keep in mind, I started drinking at 9, right? So my emotions were way underdeveloped, not even close. Um, so I was the guy in rehab that when they would hand out this little sheet with all different faces,
Mhm.
and say, "Who are you?" I would always point to the blah. Like I just always pointed to blah. And I didn't take advantage of that side of rehab at all. I just
Yeah.
left that alone, and I lived that way sober for 14 years, always in blah. And even at this point, I'm 41 years old, 41 and a half.
Mhm.
That should make Annie happy. Just to make sure that the world realizes that it's a half now. That I'm at a point where I'm still identifying what my feelings are. I'm still trying to understand what they mean. But I also realize that my feelings are momentary,
Yeah.
right? Like there's deep feelings, there's feelings that are real and deep and passionate and love and those things, you know. But at the same time, the impulses are momentary.
Yeah.
The reactions are momentary. And that's where I've really learned from this, trauma therapy is how to understand my triggers, how
Mhm.
to how to grasp them, how to not react with them immediately, and how to be able to pause, and really decide how I want to react, or
Yeah.
if I even want to react, right? Because now I realize there's times I don't have to say anything
You don't have to.
because right, and I
Because
I never understood that.
all feelings are temporary.
Yeah, and I
Up
never
and down, whatever they are. And it's a lot of we could argue that there are no good or bad feelings. They're just feelings, and it's just really, it's just, this too will pass. And it's just like experience, because it's funny how we can get so ingrained in our own minds that we don't really see our own perspective.
hmm
It's like we lose vision and we can't see it because we're so involved in our reactions, and how
hmm
we're processing information. And if you just stopped and said, that's interesting, I don't have to react to that, I don't have to do anything with that. It's just like you said, the triggers, and as you understand and appreciate the triggers, and they become less and less, because you understand that it's only a trigger and it's temporary, and you don't have to think about it, you don't have to react to it, you don't have to respond to it. So it's
No,
it's
and and,
easier
and
way of
I
being.
and I'm the king of overanalyzing, right? Like anybody who's really close to me knows that I overthink myself out of anything and into anything. And it's a great quality in certain aspects of my life, but it's a horrible quality in others. I catch finite details that are amazing at times and then horrible at times, right? I don't miss much. And then I start breaking things down and tearing things apart. And the big part for me in all this is trying to slow that process down and knowing when to turn it off and when to put it on, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a big one for me. Over analyzing and overthinking crushes me. It drains me so much on a daily basis.
What do you
There's
think the source
days
of that is? Why is that?
I think it's part of my soul. I think it's just ingrained into my soul and who I am and whatever life all the lifetimes I've had before, and maybe it's just a part of everything that I am, right? Like maybe it's just a part of my essence because the way that I break things down really has almost no purpose in everyday life, but it has purpose when I'm building businesses, when I'm looking at the bigger picture of things and I'm trying to reverse engineer how to make enormous change and enormous impact on a global level,
Mhm.
that's when it comes in handy. But the problem is I don't know how to turn it off. I just don't. And I don't know how to stop it. I don't know how to just put it on pause to sometimes live my daily life. And I think that's where my just being thing I have trouble with,
Yeah.
because I default to that still, and it's a lot of issues for me, and it always has created a lot. So I'm
Does
still
it create
working on that one.
indecision or does it just create over analytic?
Over analytic, over analytic. It's not as much indecision. It used to turn into indecision, self doubt, second guessing. But now it's more just tearing things down to finite pieces that in my daily life there's no use for it, right? Why am I overthinking every little detail when it's just today? When it comes to business, it's unbelievably a huge advantage in the world. When it
Sure.
comes to global impact, it's an enormous advantage. When it comes to connecting people and putting pieces together that they don't see yet, it's amazing. But when it comes to just daily life, it crushes me. It really still does. And it's something that I avidly work on daily to try and slow down. Some days I have to meditate 15 times. Some days I meditate 3 times. And sometimes it just doesn't work no matter how many times I do it.
Yeah. I I know that you're not alone in that regard, and I'm not. I'm probably on the opposite end of the spectrum because I'll do things that I'll do a gut check and say, okay, how does this feel? How does this does this feel like the right direction? And there are a lot of times where it doesn't necessarily prove out to be productive. I might find joy in it, and it could be a completely waste of time. I'm an avid squirrel hunter, and it's like distraction is, like it's like uh, fuel for my soul. However, it may not be productive. So it goes back to this. I don't know if there's good or bad. It doesn't seem like it. It's like, okay, it's different. You know, if we came somewhere in the middle, it might be okay. It's
It
like
it probably
accountability checks. Accountability
it
checks would be
it
awesome.
it probably would, right? Because what I would do is I would take squirrel hunting to a new level. I'd create a spider web map and break down the whole trees in the forest, and then tear down each, and then figure out each one and exactly a pattern to which tree they were in which time. Like, I mean, that's how I think. That's how my mind works. And
Yeah.
it's creating those webs. And a lot of my journaling lately has really been a lot around those spider webs and how everything feeds into each other and everything else. What do you want, Sid? I want a few. I'm live, baby. You want to say hi? No. So then why are you sitting? Why are you in front of me then? Can I finish what I'm doing? No. I can't finish what I'm doing either? No.
So how did it serve you? It doesn't serve now. Mental fitness, positive intelligence, you already know the answer, not the how. That's the saboteur procrastinator. So no movement is made. And then the stickler,
Stop.
how well does it help
Stop.
with human connection?
You need to stop.
PQ reps.
I mean, I think a lot of it is before anybody gets seasick from Sid messing with the phone. There's Sid. Yep, she's just being Sid. You
Hey,
want to say hi to
Sid, how you
Russ?
doing?
Say hi to Russ. No, you're gonna grunt. Okay. For me, again, the over analytical thing helps in a lot of ways. It helps. You know where it helps? It helps me with helping others.
Yeah.
It plays a huge role in helping others dissect their. Okay, Sydney Rain, stop. Stop. It helps me when helping others because I can pull apart circumstances and situations for others without having emotional distraction involved. When I have emotional ties in it, that's when it gets very complicated. And that's where I really start tearing myself down a little bit and get wrapped
Yeah.
up in it. And it's a scary place to be sometimes when I break into those modes. And for me, the only way to get out of it is just to sometimes it's blasting music, right? And it depends on the mood. Sometimes it's blasting Eminem, sometimes it's blasting um, REM or blasting, um, you know, uh, I can't even think right now. what was the Black Album? Who did the Black Album? It had Jeremy on there. It had a whole bunch of other stuff on there, but it's a it's another hard rock band. But like sometimes it's Metallica, sometimes it's
Yeah.
like it depends on the mood. Sometimes it's just I want to listen to bubblegum pop, right? Like I just want to
Yeah.
listen to something that's happy and cheery. Or sometimes I listen to the Trolls soundtrack, right? I have 3 kids. Like for some reason that Trolls soundtrack resonates with me these days. It really is funny if you listen to the words, how deep they are. But but sometimes that's what does it. Sometimes it's listening to those things and breaking that moment and trying to find a way out without reacting. And that's
Yeah.
the key. I
Pearl
don't
Jam.
react as much. Pearl Jam, there you go. And sometimes it's just whatever distraction it is, so I don't react because
Yeah.
the reactions have always been what killed me, right? And there's healthy distractions. Sometimes it's folding laundry, sometimes it's doing laundry, sometimes it's mopping the floors. It all depends. But when
Yeah.
you get into those modes, you need that squirrel hunting distraction, right? Like that's where that squirrel hunting comes in play.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I just want to learn something new or discover something, and it's a form of procrastination as well. And it's not necessarily good or bad. It's just sometimes it's not as productive as I need to be. And so there's a self-imposed, expectation that I have. And that's not necessarily as healthy as it needs to be as well, because that's where workaholics come from, right?
Hmm.
Like, okay, I got to get this done. I got to get that done. I got to get these things completed. And then all of a sudden self-care goes out the window, and then you're back at square one with another. You're just replacing one challenge for another. And
Hmm.
so I haven't mastered this by any stretch of the imagination. And it's cost me a lot in terms of relationships and life circumstances and things like that. And it's really about how to navigate some of those things we don't even notice. And sometimes accountability is what we need. And if you're brave enough and you're willing to take on, giving it off to someone else and saying, "Hey, call me out on my crap," that's not necessarily a bad thing either. So it's really a powerful tool.
But it's a challenge, right? Because
Yeah.
before you can trust anyone else to take things off your plate, you got to trust yourself. And trusting yourself is again the hardest thing to do because there's so much self forgiveness, self love, and self compassion there.
Yeah.
And for someone like me, that's almost impossible to achieve. I've worked very hard at it, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Lisa says
I
when we have times where we're more creative in our day. You know, I I've been thinking a lot about managing my energy. There are certain tasks that I have to do when I have more energy, whether I'm more creative or I just need to put my head down and doing something monotonous so I can just, process something really easily. There's different ways of creating energy. It's like someone asked the other day, it's like, well, what brings you energy? And it's like, I don't even know. It's like probably going out and getting on a bike and going for a ride. It's you know, it gives me a break, and it's like, okay, well, I probably need to think about doing that more frequently. It's not going to be a bad thing. And so we just have to be able to figure out what's the right mix, what's the combinations, because I have to trust someone that I'm accountable to, that I appreciate, and I really consider their opinion important and necessary. And number two, it's not going to be a sabotage to my own, you know, my emotional well-being.
well, and it's a difficult line, right?
Yeah.
Because the trick is how do I hold myself accountable to somebody else,
Uh-huh.
and then also not react or respond negatively if they try to hold me accountable,
Yeah.
right? So that's another inside thing that I've been navigating, and I still have some trouble with it, right?
You have to be
I'm not,
ready for it. You have to
yeah,
be ready for it.
and I'm a master of nothing, so we can clarify that as well. I mean, I'm not, right? I'm just not. But what I am is I'm a work in progress, as Annie always says, and I'm a constant work in progress.
Yeah.
And I just keep taking steps forward. I keep falling forward.
Well, and the fact that you're
Okay.
willing to go to work every time you get up,
Yeah.
that's the key, where you have to give yourself some forgiveness. You have to give yourself some credit. You have to give yourself the ability and the opportunity to think about, you know, I am a work in progress, and I'm okay with that. That's 100%. I'm accepting that as my reality at this point in my life. Because like I said, life is an instrument. We're just practicing. There's no end until we end.
No.
In my opinion.
And I think we're work in progresses until the day we pass, right? Until it's over.
Yeah.
I don't think there's an achievable end goal. I don't think that there's, oh, I want to hit this point before I die, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, when it comes to goals, I know everybody has ways of doing it. There's SMART goals. There's all these different goals. Everybody does New Year resolutions. Everybody has these ideas of what works best for them. What works best for me is a legacy goal. I know what I want my legacy to be.
Yeah.
Everything in between, I have flexibility, adaptability, creativity, and I can just go to town on it. Whether it's helping somebody else build something they're working on, whether it's doing something for myself, which I've never done in the past, really. I've never really spent time doing stuff for myself, which I'm starting to learn today. And you know, like I have ways to get things done when I start allowing myself to get them done.
Yeah.
Right? Like tasks that used to take me 2 hours take me a half an hour now because I don't struggle with it anymore. I don't fight it. You know, when you stop fighting, things just get easier. You know, when you're fighting everything, there's no way it can be easy. It's just impossible.
And when you get centered and you realize who and what and how you need to be in order to just be, then it becomes easier, because then you can take stuff off your plate that you don't have to worry about because it doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve you.
You need a new diaper, Sid. You can't put the same diaper back on. Sorry, she's walking around taking her diaper off, tripping over her own feet. This is life in my house, right? 3 kids, and of course those are the 12 days I choose. It's 12 straight days of them being home. But you know, it is what it is, right? I mean, Saturday at least they're gonna, you know, see their mothers, so I'll have some time for Saturday show.
And me too.
And then I'm also gonna do Andrea Sanchez's worthiness rally from 10 to 12 on Saturday, because I love those. She does it the last Saturday of every month, and they're amazing.
Yeah.
You know, anything for positivity, right? Yeah. I commit when I commit my time, it's something that's going to benefit me or help me evolve, that I can also help others evolve at the same time. Yeah. And that's what I've learned is my key component, right? Yeah. Anything that I'm going to give my time and energy to, there has to be a reciprocal exchange. And not because I always want something or expect something in return, but because that's the healthiest way for me to form any type of friendship, relationship balance. Because I'm such a, like I said, right? I'm like you said too, I'm just a people pleaser, and I'm selfless, and I always want to give and give and give. But if I do that, then I'm going to end up running myself into the ground day after day after day. Yeah. Right. And I'll be that guy, you know, on the news at, you know, 45 having a heart attack and dying. Right. And I can't, because there's too much for me to accomplish in this lifetime. Yeah. I have way too much that I'm going to get done to fulfill my legacy.
Not a sprint.
Yes. And I don't like either idea. Not a big fan of running. So, but yes, it is. It's more like a marathon crawl, but yes, I'm all for it. Right. Yeah. You know, if I could go a foot every day, I think I'll get there. I think, you know, it's taking these steps and just taking this journey and learning to appreciate the lessons, because there's so many of them that we have to just absorb and learn from. Right. And if the minute as long as we have that self-compassion, we don't get self-critical, and we don't start, you know, doubting ourselves and fearing things, there really is nothing to fear, because if you wake up in the morning, you're already partly there. Right. Yeah. So that's it. You just be grateful. You know, another thing Annie taught me.
I wake up with gratitude, and I live with intent. So, and for myself, that's enough right now. You know, I'm
I'm
okay
one of
with
the
that.
I'm one of those people that, should be doing gratitudes twice a day, but I don't, right? Um, what I do is I do a very long list of gratitudes in the morning. And then
Mhm.
at night before I go to sleep, I pray/meditate and, thank what I believe in for, being there and helping me. And I pray for others and just, that's where I pour my heart out at the end of the day. Right. And I just want others to find their happiness.
Yeah,
It's not about, how it affects me or how it impacts me. I just want the best for them because,
yeah. I get that's a quote. Wake up with
yeah,
gratitude and live with intent.
that is a good
So
one. You should put it on, you should get it on bumper stickers, the Pirate Broadcast bumper stickers. You should.
it's a
That's a good one.
I get it too. Selfish, no. Selfless is a precarious balance. Absolutely. Yes, Mike also says yes, gratitude and intent.
It is. It's important, right? It's all about
Yeah,
the
please don't
intention.
should on yourself.
Yeah. That's another bump. That should be another bumper sticker.
Yeah, don't
Um,
quit quit shoulding on yourself.
it's so tough though, right? Because those are the things that we're conditioned to believe from childhood. Those are the things that society grooms us to believe that we're
Yeah,
limited. We have limiting beliefs. We have all these subconscious fears. You got to be scared of this, scared of that. You start watching the news, you're scared of everything. You don't even want to leave your room, or
yeah,
let alone the bed. Like, I
yeah,
mean, I cut out news completely. I don't watch news anymore. I don't watch TV basically anymore because it's just annoying. It's a distraction. I can't do it anymore. There's
yeah.
times where I'll just put TV on in the background and I won't even notice it. Like there was the other day, I put on a show because I really wanted to watch it, and next thing I know, it was 4 shows later, and I didn't even pay attention because I don't, it doesn't impact my life.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give it my energy if there's no exchange, and there's no exchange from a television set.
No,
There's just not. It's a time warp, and
I
I'm
bought
really
this TV
cutting.
behind me
Yeah.
for that reason. It's like, okay, I just wanted a backdrop that I could change
Hmm.
out. But I haven't owned a TV since 95. It's like it's
It,
like
it's
I mean, it's not that I don't go to the movies or I don't watch Netflix or I don't binge on things now and then. However, it's like it's such a drain at times, and it's just like, okay, I want to do something different with my time. But
it is and it's easy to get lost in, right? Because none of us
uh,
want to deal with where we're at the moment sometimes. But the minute that we start hiding from it, it's over. Like
yeah,
even watching football, I don't think I've sat through a full football game this season. And I used to watch every game. I used to, be an avid football fan, baseball fan, basketball fan, always sports. I didn't even notice it this year. Like I just
yeah.
didn't even notice it
Well, this
because,
year's been a little different. So
well, it has, but I don't have the passion for it because it's not important right now.
yeah,
It's not something that is relevant to me. It
no,
doesn't serve a purpose in my life today.
no,
It
no.
just doesn't. And it's sad. I mean, I don't even know if I'll be able to watch the Super Bowl for the commercials anymore. And I love doing that. I mean, I don't watch the games, but the commercials are the best part of TV.
Yeah,
It's
I used to watch I used to go to the Clio Awards, which are essentially the Academy Awards for commercials. Those were
yeah.
always, and you just compress it. So, I, so Michael, we got on here. You're doing 12 days. You're doing a marathon. What is it that you want to leave with the audience today? What do you want to leave with people, and what do you want to share that encourages us to think differently, be differently, and help others pay it forward, you know, be the better person tomorrow than we were yesterday? How
Somebody really close to me that doesn't give themselves enough credit said to me, do something different.
Yeah,
And the key is if you want to change something, then do something different. If you're used to rolling out of bed and doing the same routine, and you're in the same grind, and you're in the same negative space every day, find one thing different
yeah,
and just do it. Do something different. Change it. Change everything. You know, don't be scared to change it all up, because being stuck is not worth it. And I know it's painful, and I know it's hard, and I know it hurts.
Yeah.
I've been there so many years in my life, not days, years,
Yeah.
right? Like no matter what I did, I had no satisfaction at all in my life, no gratification, no feeling.
And
So
the
I
biggest change comes in the biggest challenge. So
100%,
yeah.
100%. When you get trial by fire, you either put the fire out and walk through it, or you just run, right?
Yeah.
And at some point, I think we're all confronted with something that we stop running,
Yeah.
and that's what's important, right? Um, I think one thing that I want to let everybody know with today's show, and just in the beginning of these 12 days, and who knows, I might say it for 12 in a row, it is, you are worth it. You are worth it to go through the pain and start working towards the other side. I
Yeah.
don't see it as I'll ever be free from it. And maybe I'm nuts, but I'm a little crazy, so that's okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'll ever be free from it. But what I do know is every day gets a little bit better.
Yeah. Mike says, change your habits, change your life. Amen,
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of it, right? I think it's even bigger. I think you change everything. I think you change everything. If you're not happy, you just change. You
Challenge
change it
yourself
all.
to change. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be scared of the unknown.
Yeah. It's okay to be scared. That's a measure of how much opportunity there is to grow and change.
100%. Yes.
100%. Yeah.
Tremendously. Yes.
I love
I
that.
mean, I think that's a big key, right? Is that's a big opportunity for our personal growth, is to acknowledge that fear, walk into the fear, and push through the fear, right? No, there is
Oh, we
not a
have to.
human, there's not a human being alive that hasn't been scared of something at some point,
Yeah.
and they made that pivotal choice to either run or push through.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I ran from it enough. I'm done running from it.
Yeah.
I'm done hiding from my
Stop
mistakes.
running, Mike.
Yeah, I'm done hiding from my mistakes. I'm done
Yeah.
struggling to die. I want to live without struggling. I just want to be a resistance-free life.
Yeah. Just, you know, there's so many things that we have an opportunity. And right now, just with this live stream, we would have never have met had it not been for some of the technology that's available today.
Mhm.
And my belief in humanity is that, we all have a gift. We all have a message. We all have something that we can deliver to the world. Your legacy, leave a legacy, leave something behind. And as we record this and as we present this and we share it out, there's an opportunity for a lot of people to understand that they're not feeling alone. They're not alone. This is emotions, and this is something that every one of us at some level have to go through. As anyone that wants to grow, anyone that wants to become someone else, we have to change. We have to involve. We have to lean in, as Laura says, lean into it and make sure that we understand that that's where the real change takes place. That's where we find and discover new things about who we are, why we are, and how we relate to the rest of the world. So I encourage everybody on the technology today is like, go find something that makes a difference in your world and learn what you can about yourself and discover those pieces that are maybe misplaced, maybe lost, maybe need to be you know, changed out and made different.
And I want to say one thing. There's something to be said for the technology today, right?
Mhm.
And I say this all the time, and I'm not religious at all. I really have an issue with dogmatic religions, and it's not personal. It's nothing against anyone's beliefs. I
Yeah.
respect everyone's beliefs. But if Jesus had a YouTube channel, the whole world would believe in him, right? So I feel like we have an opportunity with virtual bonds that can be stronger than even physical bonds. There are people in my life that I've met virtually that I have a stronger bond with than people I've known my whole life. I don't think it's different. I just think that we have to lose the selfish instant gratification of having something present in front of us at that moment,
Yeah.
right? Because it doesn't work all the time. And if we're looking for that instant gratification, we're going to be let down more than we're going to succeed. But we need to find it within ourselves to overcome and
Yeah.
find that deep down way to fill ourselves, be happy with ourselves, love ourselves, and trust those around us to help us get there. And it's very difficult, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, I think the more we understand ourselves, the better we can love others.
Yeah. And
So,
it's just a journey, right? It's part of a
yeah.
journey, and it's a magical part because it's just so amazing. The stuff that's opened up within me, and that I've been able to build bonds with others because of me living my core values today and sticking within them has just been amazing. Future
Love from
past.
future past soul. I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
this has been amazing opportunity to have a conversation that is meaningful. It's meant to be, and anything that you can do, Michael, to make an impact and an impression on somebody that's wondering what they need to do next, wondering how they're going to go about it, and what is going to be next in their life. I think it's really important for us to understand that we all have the ability and the opportunity to make these changes in our lives, and just reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
We're both here. I mean, DM connections. If you're not connected, get connected. Stay
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah, you have to take that first step, right? I can't go around through the global white pages and call every human being, right? It just doesn't work that way. There's not enough time in a day, but
Yeah.
I feel like if you reach out, you're not going to get a negative response, and if you do, then you reached out to the wrong person,
Yeah.
and it's that simple. And there's enough people out there that if you reach out and fight for yourself, right, which is something we're not used to doing, but fight for yourself because you're
Yeah.
worth it. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate you.
Yes. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everybody that joined in today, and I know that there's so many things that we can do, and this is a subject that I think a lot of people, you know, struggle with this, and are challenged by this, identity and who we are and what we do and who do we need to be and how do we need to act, and how do we relate, especially this time of year. It's like, okay, I got the uncomfortable place where I have to be something and I have to put on a happy face and go meet the relatives or whatever it happens to be. Those circumstances are real, and I don't want to diminish anybody's feelings around that. However, if you take the initiative and go forward and discover who you are, and why those reactions are coming up, and attempt to discover how and why you're feeling that way, then maybe there's a different way you can look at it for next year.
Yeah. Yeah. And reach out because I have people that can help you in all different kinds of ways. I
Yeah.
can tell you the people that help me, and then I can show you people that have just been in my life,
Yeah.
right? That have just had an impact on it. So there's people out there that want to help. You've just
Yeah.
got to ask and fight for it for yourself. You've
Like
got to
Mr.
want it for
Rogers
yourself.
says, look for the helpers, right?
Yeah, always look for them, always. So
Well, Michael, this has been a pleasure and absolute opportunity to assist and support you in any way I can possibly do it. So,
no, and I appreciate you, Russ. Thank you so much for jumping on this and being a part of this for me. I really appreciate it.
no worries at all. And everyone, as you know, kindness is cool. Smiles are free.
They are, and you're not alone. You're not
And you're not
alone
alone.
ever.
So when's the next episode up?
Supposed to be tomorrow. I'm just waiting on a host though.
Okay. And so how
So
do people connect with you and catch up?
they can come to my LinkedIn page, and I put a post up there with all the different days. As of now, every day except for tomorrow and Sunday are full. So the
Okay.
whole list is up there. So they're all there.
Well, if you
So-
need anything, give me a shout. You know, I'm here.
I definitely will, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Russ.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Appreciate
everybody.
you. Love you all.
Yes.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.